think your generation or my generation is doing wrong?
That's a really good question. And I
Mm,
don't think too many people would like to hear that an older generation thinks the younger generation is doing stuff wrong and vice versa.
we've grown up with it, just the natural freedom that we've had here in America.
We know that hundreds upon thousands, if not millions of people died for that freedom. To establish and then protect that freedom, you wouldn't have it. But nobody's
Exactly. But we don't know that because we don't know what it's like to not have freedom. That makes things tricky whenever you're discussing the differences between younger generation and older generation, because the older generation has already lived the younger generation, just in a different time frame, but for the most part, similar.
Yes, it
That's
is.
deep cut. The hot take that I leave you guys with this week is
Well, good morning, Noah.
whoa, good morning. Are you saying that to the listeners?
It just came out. Good morning. And in all reality, it's nighttime here.
Yeah, it's pretty late actually. This is like your bedtime, to be honest. Like, I'm
Well, it
not trying to
is
be
actually.
mean. Yeah, it is your bedtime.
It is. I'm an old man when it comes to that. It's funny because our listeners or viewers could be listening or watching this in the morning time, right? And it could be
That's
a
true.
really fantastic morning for them.
That's why I figured you were talking about the listeners. I figured you were just going straight to them, which is cool. Definitely welcome in, listeners. I'll just chime in with Chris here.
Yes.
Thanks for listening in on another
Welcome.
week of Duo Jive.
Yes.
Welcome to this week's episode. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you've
Yes.
listened
Yes.
to all 41 episodes, this being 41, thank you, by the way.
Yes.
Seriously, it means more than
Yes.
you know if you're
Yeah.
listening this long. But
Yes.
welcome to Wyoming's #1 podcast for
Number one.
questionable advice, accidental wisdom, and deeply unnecessary storytelling.
That is a wonderful intro, by the way.
I figured we'd just go straight into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Before we jump in, even though I just said I jump into it, before we jump into talking this week,
Sure. About
make sure to
this
come
week's
hang out with
topics.
us on Instagram or TikTok. Drop our
Yep.
next questions if you want to
Yep.
hear what you want to hear, if you want to hear something else, and make sure you like, subscribe, and follow on whatever you're listening on.
Yes, amen. Well, and that like and the follow and subscribe are definitely in order. How much do you subscribe to?
Now, that is a deep question. You can't just throw that in like that. What do you mean?
I mean, I don't know that I subscribe to too terribly much, and if I subscribe, that's pretty special.
That's what
And
I'm
if
saying.
someone,
Yes, I agree.
absolutely, and if someone subscribes, this is what I was really getting at. If someone subscribes to us, we think you're really special because that's
Mm,
freaking amazing. Quite
you heard it
frankly,
here first.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. How's your week going?
It's good. It was a busy week, a busy weekend.
Yes,
Got
it
to very
was.
eventful. Got to hang out with the fam. It was Valentine's Day weekend,
Yes, it
so
was.
everyone's getting their
Yes.
romance on, if you will, for
Yeah.
this past
Yeah.
weekend.
Or
And
celebrating
yeah, we
relationships,
had a
no
good
doubt.
time.
Yeah, no doubt. That's
You?
cool. It's funny because I did uh, a search about what do you buy mom for Valentine's, for example, you know? And it's not quite as popular, obviously, as couples buying each other Valentine's gifts, but that is what Valentine's is often celebrated as a time of celebrating that kind of love as well. But it was a great weekend, like you said, eventful, celebrating with the family,
Hmm.
and it was actually kind of almost exhausting in some regards. And it was a good exhausting if you catch my drift.
That's good. That's kind of where I was at. It was so busy that it's good to be back and just kind of getting back in the groove of things. Another
Yes.
week, another. I always say, I guess I don't always say it, but I've been kind of lingering on the phrase "another day, another way," and you
Well,
could take it however you may. That's
well,
actually that's how I'm gonna continue it. There you have it.
another
Another
day.
day, another way. However you want to take it, and it's just grateful to be alive, grateful for the day at hand, and it's good. Back in the groove of
Yep.
things.
So,
We got to actually hang out with.
are you
What's that?
practicing another way? Another day, another way?
Of course.
So how is it implied?
Exactly.
Okay, there you go. However
Mhm.
you take it. That's good.
However you may.
Absolutely. Enjoyed
But
it
with
though.
that, we got to hang out with you this weekend. We came down to Denver again. We actually we dipped into Estes Park, which is a ski town right outside of Denver, if anyone's
Yes.
familiar with that, or if you're not.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
little ways outside of Denver in the mountains. A little snowy up there, nothing crazy, which has been crazy to say because this is the most mild winter I've ever seen. The
Dude,
mountains
yes.
are getting snow, which is good because the skiing's still going. It's going to allow for some runoff come summertime. It's gonna be a doozy of a dry winter up here in Wyoming, though, I will say,
No doubt about that. Yeah, I
unless we
mean,
get
drought
dumped on within the next couple months.
and obviously municipalities up here, right, in Colorado and Wyoming, especially Colorado and Wyoming, because it's been so dry, are already bracing for droughts this summer.
Mhm.
And
Prepping.
it's a lot of water conservation and a whole lot of concern about whether or not people throw a cigarette out the window.
That's crazy. You have to worry at something as small as that.
Yep. Yeah. But and it's already that kind of winter, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of concern. It's like living in California though, pretty much. You can't throw
They're
a
always
cigarette.
in a dry s I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can't throw a cigarette anywhere in Colorado. I mean, in California, without burning the place up.
Being that it's a desert, that does make a lot of sense. I
Yep,
mean, I didn't realize it when I went or at the time, but yeah,
sure.
it's kinda crazy.
That's true because you're in LA, whereas Palm Tree Central, you know?
Mhm. It does not feel like a desert by any means.
No, not
There's
at
some
all.
aspects to it. There's some spots where you go and there's cactus and you're like, "Oh, yeah, this is like a oasis apparently,
Yep.
because we may be in the desert, but it does not feel
Yep.
like it."
No, no, that's for sure. But then you get outside of LA and it's like, yep,
Mhm. There it
accidental.
is.
Yep. Yeah. But I mean, it's people are pretty smart, especially in these regions. And when it comes to water conservation, they do a pretty good job.
Good. Prepping ahead. That is the key factor right
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
You can't really change the weather, but what you can do is you can plan ahead for what's occurring
Yes.
around you.
Yes.
So, we're all
Yes.
taking precaution on that, which is good. Overall, really good weekend. Hopefully you listeners out there had a really good Valentine's Day, being able to spend it with your loved ones for that, and just had a good time and enjoyed the weekend. While we were there, I guess I should say for me, while I was leaving Denver on my way up, I made one final stop, and that
Yeah.
was at a
I know.
crumble.
Yes, yeah, and it's kinda it truly is almost the last stop on, before, Fort Collins, right?
Yes,
That's Fort
coming
Collins, the
that
last
little
place?
northern corner of Colorado. Yep,
Yep,
it was the final stop that I made because obviously Crumble's closed on Sundays. So is that everywhere? I think that's everywhere. Crumble is closed on Sundays. I could be
never even
mistaken on
considered.
that.
Yeah,
But they're closed on Sundays, so I had to wait till Monday to get a cookie to try for the week. And when they reset the cookies, they actually came out with a new one that kind of blew my mind. It's currently out this week. It is out this week. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was so far away, it would be very tempting to get another because I ended up getting for my dessert of the week was a cookie butter, or I guess I should be more precise, a Biscoff skillet cookie. So
yeah,
they basically
yes,
like a
I saw
chocolate
that.
chip skillet cookie with a
Yes,
dollop of whipped cream, the softest whipped cream you've ever had, and it was just drizzled
yes,
and filled and topped with
yes,
Biscoff crumbs and butter, and
yes.
it was good.
I can only imagine. Kinda dreamy, huh?
Oh man,
No,
that one's a top one for sure.
and how so it just had a Biscoff cookie in or sitting on top of? Or was it the ingredients Biscoff
I think it
flavored with
had
cook
Biscoff flavoring
with
in the cookie, but it was mainly chocolate chip.
oh, okay. Well, that's a pretty rich cookie. If it's Biscoff flavored as well, then
You make a good
including
point. I
chocolate
don't
chip.
think it was. I think it was just chocolate chip because it did not overpower the Biscoff did not overpower by any means like it did with our Jackhammer Andy's frozen custard cookie butter that we did.
Yes.
That was insane. A
Yes.
couple
That
episodes
was
back we
yeah,
talked
absolutely.
about that,
Yep.
and that was an insane thing that we did. We did cookie butter on top of cookie butter. We learned our
Yes.
lesson. But this one was very
Yeah.
mild, and it was manageable in a good way. So,
Yeah.
I would highly recommend that cookie. That's definitely, that was a good
It
one.
sounds kinda dreamy
Uh-huh.
in flavor. Good. So it had a Biscoff cookie on top of it.
Yep. And then I had an honorable mention because it was Valentine's Day and my lovely wife, Tiffany, she just so happened to she gets me and she knows my
Yeah.
guilty pleasure when it comes to sweets and she made me
Yes.
some red velvet cookies, a whole
And I
box of
had one.
them.
Yeah.
There was a whole tub of cookies and those disappeared. I'm glad you did because the whole tub disappeared within the day of Valentine's. That's how
Well, and
good.
that's kind of crazy because I saw that tub. I got a
Yes,
cookie. I got a cookie out of it, and that's it. And so if it's
I'm
all
sorry.
gone, you guys,
It's
you
all
got
gone. I did. I didn't share other than whenever I gave it to you.
that's great. Well, I got to share with Lincoln too.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah.
I can
You're
tell
right
that
on
he
that.
he really liked them with the red dye or the red
Mhm.
cookie
Very
color.
red velvety.
Yes, sir.
Sugar cookie, like a infusion, it was good. So that was definitely a honorable
Yes.
mention.
Yes.
And I've gotta know, did Chris over here, did you is this gonna be week number 3 where you're letting us down?
No.
Oh, good.
Large
Okay. Oh,
lar I got a lot of thanks to you on that because it became the plan on Saturday evening or Sunday, one of the 2, that we would go to the Shake Shack.
yes. Wow, I
Yes,
am dropping the ball.
downtown. Yep, yep, and, downtown Denver has a Shake Shack, and is that what it's
Well, you have
called?
to be precise. No, Shake Shack is actually a restaurant, it's a burger joint.
Ah, okay. So what was the place that we went to? It was the Shake
It was called the Yard Milkshake Bar.
the Yard. There you go. There you go.
It was literally just a place that you would go to get milkshakes and ice cream and sundaes. They had all of it, but they were kind of notoriously famous for their shakes, like you were saying.
Yes. Yes. And of course, I got to try one of their signature shakes. Actually, I think it was a shake that was supposed to have chocolate chip cookie flavored ice cream in it, but I wanted something red velvety, right? So they did the red velvet in that shake, and it was incredible.
You did good.
Well, you almost can't finish it, quite frankly, because it's so loaded down. It's got whipped topping piled,
Oh man,
bigger than I can
they
reach.
do their shakes right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it was absolutely delicious. You guys got to try it. But I mean, it was outstanding, and that I would highly recommend a visit to the what is it called again?
The Yard Milkshake
The
Bar. It's
Yard.
in downtown Denver.
Yeah,
And I also got a milkshake while we are there, and I totally
come on,
spaced it. I'm glad you brought it up because I guess I didn't steal it from you, but that also got a milkshake while we went there, and mine
right?
was always in Ferrero. That was the name of the milkshake that I got, which
Yeah,
was a
I
Ferrero Rocher. Ferrero Rocher? How do you
I
say
don't
that?
have a clue.
We're just gonna go with Ferrero Rocher
I
and
Yeah,
Nutella milkshake.
that's why I completely erased it out of my mind because it was Nutella, right?
Yeah, it was good stuff, man.
Oh, love
Very
it.
mild. Very
Well, it
mild
had
on the Nutella.
So it had the Nutella balls on it, right? It didn't have Nutella flavored ice cream in it, did it?
It did not have Nutella balls, it had Ferrero Rochers, which are hazelnut.
Right. Yes. Yes. Which is another thing I really can't stomach very well. But
Sorry to hear
I
that.
mean, hey, it's got its audience, right? It's
Mm.
got its audience, and you
I'll
guys
take
part.
yours.
What?
If you ever get anything Nutella or Ferrero Rocher, I'll take
Yeah.
your port.
Yeah, man. I'll keep that in mind. Matter of fact, if I find that stuff in places, I'll be sure to load up for y'all to
Oh, good,
benefit.
good.
But
Yep.
not me. But that's just
I
it's
was
one of
gonna
those
say
things.
I'll trade you my red velvet, but I actually really like red velvet as well.
Well, with the way you plowed through those cookies, baby,
Dude, I'm telling you.
it's yeah. I'm not getting your red velvet from you, but that's all right.
Yeah, it was good stuff, but we did it right, clearly. We brought our desserts of the week, which was nice, it's
Yep,
good stuff.
and a great weekend.
And it was a good
Thanks for
weekend,
coming
good.
up or down.
Thanks for yeah, I went down, you went up technically because you went up in the mountains. So I guess we
Yeah,
both went up
all
in
good.
the mountains,
Yep, yep,
but it was a good time.
yep.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, Estes Park is a wonderful place to visit
Mhm.
if you got an opportunity to go there. Of course, our audience, if they have an opportunity to get there, I highly recommend it. It's peaceful, right? And
Mhm.
there's a lot of there's a lot of opportunity for rest and relaxation. It's not a city that's loaded down with too much stuff to do. Like if you go to Branson, for example, there's too many
Hmm.
things to do in a whole week. Yeah, I mean, you could literally be in Branson for a whole week and still not be able to do it all. It's just the same thing with Disney World and so on and so on. Estes Park is just the opposite, especially at this time of year. Go to Estes Park and just chillax because there's nothing else to do.
It helps that it's the wintertime. Even though it's a ski town, it helps that, well, I mean, it just there's some businesses that kind of thrive on the summertime aspect because it's
Yep,
also very popular. It's not just a ski town because it's very popular in the summer as well, possibly the same. And I think you're right. It was very chill. It was fun and because of how chill it was, even for Valentine's. But the one thing that kind of shocked me was, I don't know if you noticed this, but whenever we went downtown, did it feel like there was either a ice cream, a taffy, or a chocolate store on pretty much every corner of that downtown?
yep, every block.
Every block had a chocolate, a
Yep.
taffy, or an ice cream shop, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness,
It's like
this is a
Galveston.
lot." Is
Galveston,
that how
Texas, is just like that.
same way?
Yep. But yeah, it was very good.
Yep, agreed. And made for a fun weekend. And with that, unfortunately, I just looked and it looks like we're still stuck at 12 followers from TikTok from hitting 50 subscribers. We didn't budge this week. So we're just going to have to keep pressing through and keep moving until we finally get to that 50 subscriber or follower bump on TikTok. That way we can do a live show on there. Technically, we can do it on YouTube already. So maybe we might want to dabble into that and then dip into TikTok whenever we finally unlock it.
Yep,
But TikTok is the goal. So
absolutely.
just keep an eye
Absolutely.
out. And if you
Well, I
follow us
think
on TikTok, you'll be able to see and you get the notifications going, you'll be able to see when we go live, when we finally have it up and running.
I like it very much. And we just keep talking about it. We just
Keep
keep
bringing it
talking about
up.
it. And
Keep talking.
next thing you know, we'll be there and gone, and it'll be a thing of the past.
Mhm.
So thank you. Thank you very much for doing that, following us. What else are we going to talk about today?
That's a good question. I guess you're ready to change subjects then.
Well, I mean, I was transitioning into the next topic
I got you.
so that we could spend some time on this because I think, quite frankly, this is a lot of fun.
Man. Well, now I think you have them intrigued, all the listeners. They may be a little intrigued on what we have to say.
All right, let's do it.
Well, I guess I should ask you, start off with, do you think your generation or
There we
my
go.
generation is doing wrong?
That's a really good question. And
Mm,
I don't think too many people would like to hear that an older generation thinks the younger generation is doing stuff wrong and vice versa, right? A
that's true.
generation older generations like mine would not enjoy hearing that the younger generation, although you expect that. I firmly believe that most of the younger generation believes that the older generation is doing stuff wrong. A lot of what they do wrong has most things wrong, like their perspective on politics and religion and what have you.
Differing opinions. That's very true. It's like
No
it's
doubt.
not about who's doing it wrong. It's more about, you know, it's not about this isn't about who's right or who's wrong. It's about what confuses us because things are being done differently as
Okay,
generations go
confuses.
on.
That's a
Yeah,
unique and interesting word to use in this kind of conversation.
because since
Well,
we don't understand it, does that mean it's wrong?
precisely. And the fact that we don't understand each other sometimes or are confused by what the other generation does is all the more of a reason just to assume we're not doing it wrong. We just have our way, right? Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, when I was your age, I thought to myself quite frequently, well, I don't like the way dad does things, right? But I attributed that to his generation, and I attributed it to having been trained up a certain way and maybe dealt with things a certain way because his generation had to deal with things that I never
True.
had to deal with. A good example. was the way my grandpa dealt with things. I wondered one time why my grandpa's garage was so remarkably cluttered. I would go in my grandpa's now don't get me wrong, I liked going in my grandpa's garage because it was cluttered with a bunch of interesting artifacts. It was almost like a museum, if you will, you know? It was almost like walking into a museum because it had so much old stuff in it, and it was but what I found out was the reason why he was that way was because he went through the depression. You know what the depression was, right?
Huh?
I mean, in
A
knowing
little bit more before my time, but
a whole
I've
lot before
studied
your
it.
time, it was a little bit before my time, and, the reason he was the way he was and cluttered stuff up in his garage and collected so much stuff that I thought some of which was junk, some of it was collectors. I understood that even at a young age, but the reason why he did that was because of the fact that he went through a time period in time where he didn't know what it was like to have a nickel. Very
Isn't that
strange
crazy?
time. Yeah, very strange time to us, is it not?
A little bit. And then like that's the old school. Like that's to me and to you, that's the old school. But even our generations, yours and mine, have some pretty I feel like some pretty distinct differentiating factors already to
Okay,
this day.
alright,
Being that we're 33 years apart, you and I,
okay,
there's some different we could I mean, we see the world differently, clearly. Our generations do.
right, yes,
And I actually have some questions for you regarding that. And I guess what
really.
we can make it quick, and you might have some for me as well, and we can kind
I
of
could
like
come up with some.
rapid
Yep,
fire these
yep,
in a way to where
yep.
it's we don't linger on them too long.
Alright,
But I
let's do
guess
it.
going straight into it.
Come on.
All right, question number one: what about the younger generation makes the least sense to you?
So what about your generation makes the least sense to me? Well, I mean, right off the bat, it's gonna be your generation's understanding of or appreciation for our country, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
History was not something that was spent y'all didn't spend much time on history, right? My generation did, and my grandpa's generation really did. So, I mean, there's that loss that's being experienced right now in these generations. I don't believe your generation spent enough time on the history of our nation, what it means to be a patriot. And so as a result, there's not a whole lot of thought in your mind, or especially when you're hearing a lot of things that are being screamed about, yelled about, talked about, cried about by your generation on why things are being done the way they are. And so as a result, that I don't get it. Why didn't people take time to train your generation on these things that should be so important to us, right? Am I right about that? Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I could
I
be
don't know. No, you're definitely right because my generation, and then it extends even further into the younger generation, is we haven't taken a real care. I'm going to be honest, a real care into you're talking political, right?
not just, but yes. Not just,
Okay,
but I mean
well,
a good example would be patriotism. Did you see
okay,
the
well,
movie Patriot with Mel Gibson?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's patriotism.
Okay, well, the thing about patriotism, that's very heavy when it comes to fighting for something. And in today's day and age, we don't fight the same way we used to. There's a lot of people that fight online. And I don't even know if you could qualify that as patriotism. There might be people out there that might consider it patriotism because you're still voicing your opinion online to the world, and which is a much bigger magnitude. Patriotism back then was putting your life on the line, but you were doing it in a handful, in front of a handful of people at a time because the rest of the world wasn't seeing you. They were just hearing about it later. Now you can see it in real time, so maybe to a degree it can be considered patriotism, but at a lesser magnitude, especially whenever it comes to fighting for our freedoms because we've grown up with it from my generation and on. We've grown up with it, just the natural freedom that we've had here in America, just a part of who we are. It's expected, I guess. And so there's no real having to keep that or we feel obligated to carry that on. It's just expected that we have the freedom there and we're going to go about our day.
Okay.
So there's not as much care. It's lacking in care, I would say.
And that part really is hard for a lot of people, especially my generation and older, because so many people we know that hundreds upon thousands, if not millions of people died for that freedom.
Hmm.
And if they didn't die to protect, to establish and then protect that freedom, you wouldn't have it. But nobody's
Exactly. But we don't know that because we've only had freedom. We don't know we don't know what it's like to not have freedom.
very good. Very good. I get that. That makes perfect sense, right? So the question that we find ourselves constantly dealing with is not only can how we fix that. I mean, my goodness, it is largely being left out in the households, right? So not enough moms and dads are taking time to make sure that their children understand these things, right?
Yeah.
And all it takes is a couple generations of negligence for these things to begin to go away. They are starting to now, as a matter of fact. There are debates and conversations, very mean and spirited conversations taking place about gun control, not just gun control, but freedom of speech, right? Freedom of speech and the Constitution. And once our Constitution begins to take that hit, dude, you're not going to be able to stop it. Then the next thing you know, we will be just like one of those countries that do not have a Constitution and a lot of freedoms lost.
Well,
Gun control or guns actually make sure that we keep those freedoms.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it seems as if I can tell where this is headed as far as your opinion on the younger generation.
Sure.
It's very heavy
Absolutely.
in the political
It's part of
thought
it.
behind of it.
It's part of it. And
Well,
it's not
okay,
just
okay. I got
politics,
another question for you.
culture. Go ahead.
Do we expect too much too fast when it comes to work or success?
Absolutely. Of
I think you're
course.
right on that. I actually agree.
I felt like you knew the answer to that one anyway. And
Mhm.
and it's only an affirmation to the fact that these things are a concern or a problem in our generation towards your generation.
Mhm.
So yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, what do you think phones and technology have done to us? Clearly, it's affecting us in some shape, form, or fashion. What do you
Yes.
think phones and technology have done to us as a younger generation?
And it would be so much easier if we could illustrate for you what life was like before, right? So we didn't have internet in my childhood. We didn't have phones. We didn't have cellular phones at all in my childhood. That wasn't until I was 24 years old before I got my first cellular phone, and it was a bag phone, right? It was a phone that sat inside of a black bag, and we had to unzip it and pull it out, and it had a big battery at the bottom of it that was inside the bag, and they were installing them in cars. And
Mm.
then it was a couple of years later when all of a sudden the portable phone was when I was 25 or 26, and it was probably that long, the phone, and the antenna was like that long on
And
top
to
of
think
that phone. It was like a military phone.
where we've come since then.
Right, right. But life was amazing
So
without
it's
those.
it's gotten worse. Or I don't want to say it's gotten worse, but because the question was, what do you think phones and technology have done to us? Because always that you can always have that dilemma of whether or not, is technology and is phones a blessing or a curse? It can be a mix.
A curse, absolute. I say it
But
without hesitation.
what do you think it has done to us?
Well, it's created this world. So technology and phones together have created a world, especially in the United States, where people no longer they don't know how to communicate. Do not. I mean, I know what it means. I knew what it meant at 13 years old to walk up to any person, anywhere, at any time that was in my presence and look them in the eye, shake their hand, and say hello. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Right? And have conversations, communicate. Communication was different. It was different. It was really, really different. Then at the same time, it's also created a world where young people, especially your generation and younger, where when we walk into a room where you are at, you're not even going to look up to acknowledge the fact that we did it. You're going to keep looking at your phones.
Oh man, yeah, I agree with you there as well. Whenever it comes to the younger generation, it's like they're more involved in their phone than they are in the
Yes.
real world, to
Yes.
a point to where they won't even acknowledge you in public
Yes.
other than maybe a brief hi.
And my generation, to a degree, has fallen victim to this as well through time, right? But it wasn't like this when I was younger. But your generation and younger, you know what it's like at a much younger age, 8 years old, 9 years old, and never even get acknowledged by that person or acknowledge the fact that people are in the room with you. And
Oh yeah.
that's just getting started, you know?
Yep. Well, all right. I got one more question for you, and then you may have some for me, but
Okay.
I got another one for you.
I'm interested.
What mattered at 27 for you at 27 that doesn't really matter now?
Ooh. Oh my goodness. Okay, you're gonna have to be a little bit more descriptive if you don't mind. What
To think
mattered
that, yes,
what mattered for me at 27, do I think does not matter for you now?
for you now,
Doesn't
being
matter
at
for
the
me.
age you are, yes,
So things that did matter to me and now don't matter to me.
yes.
And that's vast. That is vast. And really, I think the most important thing is going to be what I achieve in life. At 27, I felt like I had to conquer the world. I no longer feel that way. Quite frankly, what matters to me now, and this is absolutely true. What mattered to me at 27 was what I was accomplishing, what I was doing and getting done, and my wife, because I had been married for roughly 3 or 4 years at that point. Okay. And my wife. And my direct family, which was always in another state from where I lived. That's what mattered to me at 27. Now, the probably takes up 80% of my brain power is how my family's doing, how my children and grandchildren and wife are doing every day, and what I can do to make their lives better.
So you've
I-
become more family oriented than you were back in the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even if I would have had kids, I didn't have kids. I didn't have you, and I didn't have the other children, your brother and sister. I didn't have you guys until I was 33. So at 27, right?
Yeah, a little bit later. Came around a little bit later.
I was a program director at a radio station and also had a youth group that I was responsible for, and that was a big
That'll
part of
keep you
my life.
busy. Yeah.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you got any for me?
Well, I think I could dream some up.
Hmm.
Of course, there would be, if I took time to sit down and think about this for a while, there would be probably a good 20, 30 questions that I would want to ask you, especially now that we're having this conversation while people no doubt are listening or watching it, right? But does your generation tie too much identity to your work?
Interesting. I would say no. I would say I feel like that is a older school
Yes, it is.
generation mindset of thinking. I think it's actually quite the opposite. Maybe it's just me. I I'd like to say that I could speak on behalf of my generation because I'm a part of my generation, but I think that we've grown to be completely the opposite, almost to a degree to where it's too far, in that we're entitled to too much and we don't have to work for it. There is a degree of working for what you work for what you earn, and you don't want to take away from that, but at the same time, it's not like the old school generation where they gave their blood, sweat, and tears to what they did, to their job, to their career.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
So,
I can kind of see that. I can kind of see that. It's almost as though many people in your generation are trying too hard to distance themselves from their identity being tied to their work.
yeah, they go to work and they come home and that's it. Really. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I always I take the phrase, "I don't work to live." I don't live to work, I work to live,
Right,
which
right.
means I'm at
Yeah.
work, and
It has
then
a function
once
or
I'm
a
done,
purpose, and that's it.
yes, and then once I'm done, I'm going home to what I've worked for, which is spending time with
Fair
family.
enough. Fair enough. Another question. was burnout just considered normal by your generation?
Was burnout. I don't know if burnout is quite an issue to a degree that was back in the day. I feel like when do you know at all what you mean by burnout? Like anything in particular and specific or just in general?
Well, if anything, I mean, I sense there's burnout by your generation, especially when it comes to their jobs, because it seems largely more so than my generation, obviously, that your generation is trying to avoid working
So that would
more
be a
so.
degree of burnout. Yeah, I do
Yeah,
agree there. Yeah. So burnout, yeah, actually, I take that back. Yeah, burnout is very normal. It's a very part of our generation's life to a point to where we're like, okay, well, now that I'm done with this, what's the next thing? And then we move
sure.
on, find the next thing,
Yeah,
find the next thing, find the next thing. It's a lot more common in today's day and age in my generation, I feel like, to find a new job after a couple years and move on to that and find uh another work task of sorts rather than
yeah,
sticking with a
yep,
job for 30 plus years.
yeah, absolutely. In my generation, at your age, 27 years old, if I found a job, it was because somebody in my geographic area, I was able to reach out to them and get a job, right? It wasn't as easy to go online and find a job anywhere in the world
That is true.
that fit me. It just wasn't that easy at all. It really sheds a whole new light on the dynamic of being 27 years old in this generation. Absolutely. Well, what about what systems do you think older generations accepted too easily?
Ooh,
That's
so
very
this is a question about my generation or from my generation about your generation.
yeah. What systems do you think my generation accepted too easy as a system?
That is deep. Wow. Wow. Like, yeah, I see your predicament with the questions I asked you. A question to that magnitude on when you say systems, I'm trying to think of examples of systems.
It could be a world system, could be a culture system, could be a educational system, it could be a career system, it could be a political system.
I would say the system that was too easily accepted back in your generation would probably be open-mindedness. I feel like
What?
your generation is a lot more close-minded to a point to where
Mm,
once they figure out a specific path or they agree with a specific mindset, they're set on it. That is them, that is their being. Basically, there's no degree of opening up or a lesser degree of opening up and hearing what else is out there and what else they have to say and trying to at least understand or grasp before shutting down entirely or
fascinating.
disagreeing.
Now, okay, so I find that fascinating because I was your dad, right? Or
Mhm.
I am your dad. I always felt like I was open-minded. So to hear that from you representing your generation, thinking that my generation was like that is really, really odd and fascinating to me.
See, I think we're both odd ducks in that scenario, and that's why I have a tough time saying what I'm saying because I'm like, I don't know if I can speak for my generation, even though I'm a part of my generation. And it
Right?
seems as if you might kind of have that same issue as well for your generation because overall, I'm not speaking on behalf of you, but overall, when it comes to the older generation, they just seem
The
more
people
hard
you know
headed.
from are my generation, yeah.
Yes, more hard-headed in the ways they believe and not accepting of new traditions. It's been more there's been more leniency on that in the past coming years, but for a bit there, it was older generation was set in their ways.
That's just fascinating to me, right? And
Mhm.
unless I see danger in the things that might be that your generation may be trying to get my generation to accept, I never had a problem accepting it. Does it make any sense? If unless it represented some kind of danger.
Yes, unless it wasn't it's okay to disagree with someone. The thing that I'm speaking on is they have a specific mindset in their head, and they feel as if they're so right that they can't even hear the other person out. They have to
Sure. Sure.
cram what they believe down the other person's throat, and that's kind of what I'm saying is just not
And I
even hearing them out.
and I confess that I have those feelings when it comes to, for example, socialism, right? I'm so stuck in the mud there, I'm not even going to consider it. I'm not even
Exactly.
I won't even if someone approaches me and says, "Look, your generation needs to accept some socialistic values, some socialistic thinking, some whatever," right? I'm gonna be like, "Shut your stinking face, man." Right? I'm not even considering it because I know the
You've already
peril.
had those conversations,
I have, yes, many times,
so you're
and I also
familiar.
and I've
It's not
also
like
think
it's not like you're having a conversation with somebody where they're trying to entice you into joining socialism. You studied, you've understood, you've read, and you've determined that socialism is not the right path.
well, there are many in your generation and especially younger that preach it, that want our generation to accept it. Just what they want us to see is the benefits that they believe exist in socialism and want us to embrace or accept or be willing to consider it as a part of our culture, right?
Hmm,
And I know how that ends. I know. I can see the future, man.
those are some big words.
Yes, it is.
People are going to be
I'll
coming
wear
to
it.
you with advice, asking on what they can do to avoid certain scenarios in the future.
Well, okay, no, when it comes to these kinds of things, I am very closed-minded. I'm closed-minded. Nobody can convince me that you can have a society where one segment of society pays for all of what the rest of society needs.
When I s- when I'm asking this, I'm not asking like for me. I'm asking just in the sense of the question that I asked before, which is you're not even willing to hear someone out on what they have to say
Heck
or
no.
what they okay, well,
Heck no.
there you have
No.
it.
If like, for example, if you were to say, "Hey, Dad, I really think you should consider this viewpoint because that socialistic society that will be created there, socialism, that would be beneficial." And I would say, "Son, with all due respect, you can talk. I'll listen, but I'm not even considering it." The whole time you're talking, I'm like, "Okay, how am I going to let him know that that is probably that there's no way that's going to work?" And I'm trying to avoid saying how that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, kind of thing. You know what I'm
So what
saying?
we're discovering here is what I was saying is actually true when it comes to older generations.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Well, and the first question that has to be raised is, where have you seen it work? Right? Where have you seen socialism work?
Well, I
Because we
think you're
all know
getting it twisted. I never once asked about socialism. You're the one who brought up that topic
exactly, and I did bring that up as a topic to where I am closed-minded, right?
as an
And
example,
yeah, as an example, and
but I'm
there
just
are some,
speaking on behalf of everything on
and there,
top of
absolutely,
political views, religious views, it's just the
and religious views.
open-mindedness aspect is more of a newer generation way of thinking.
It may be. I doubt it because I saw when I was a kid, right, and the 70s very rapidly approached when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, right? The 70s were a time of Aquarius, you know?
Interesting.
It was the age of Aquarius. That was a song that was very popular back then. And I remember my my aunts who lived with us. I had two aunts, which were my mom's sisters, who lived with us in their teen years on up into the 20s. They were in that time expressing all of these views that were being communicated on college campuses, universities, and everything that was going on in the movie world, just in society and in general. There was a time when that whole these philosophies were being expressed and debated
Well, now
every day.
you've
And
got
I
me
heard
thinking. Well, you've got me thinking. This is much deeper than what my question was, and our even this whole debate that we were briefly talking about is we're the possibility of we're just reliving history right now with that same younger generation mindset that you guys had in the '70s, and eventually we're gonna get to your age here in
yes,
the
you are.
future, and we're gonna eventually reach that point where we're like, no, I've already lived it, I've already done it, I've already seen it. No, this is the right way.
That's right. And as a result, you become set in your ways.
And
Absolutely.
that makes things tricky whenever you're
It does.
discussing the differences between younger generation and older generation because the older generation has already lived the younger generation just in a different time frame, but for the most part
Woo!
similar.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty, that's
Yep.
that's deep.
Yes, it
That's
is.
deep cut.
And it's a long deep conversation when you really want to get into it, right? If
Yeah.
you want to have that conversation, if you've got the time to invest into that conversation, that's the hardest part, no doubt.
All right. Well, let's flip the perspective then.
Okay.
What does the other generation actually get right instead of pointing out the flaws?
And I believe that's the challenge, is it not? For the older generation, my generation, to keep in mind, okay, even though we may have lived through some stuff, we still haven't got it all perfect, right? We don't have it all figured out. We don't have it perfect. And there can be benefits to the influence of the younger generation that obviously can't be about certain political things that we know do not work. We know that. History has proven. And that's the funny thing about all of this. History repeats itself. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So America was born 250 some years ago, right? America was born. It was born by men, a society, really, because there were no doubt women involved, who were godly, who were first and foremost basing everything they did in forming our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, on godly principles, right? This was a society that hadn't been tried almost since shortly after Adam, right? It had gone a long time of the world learning the hard way of what happens when you build a society on unbiblical, on non-biblical principles, on morals, on non-biblical morals, on non-biblical values. And when you build that kind of society, it turns into absolutely every single time, it turns into a total train wreck. And then it turns into a murderous, adulterous community, society. It does. It's a guaranteed fact. We don't have to try it again to say, well, let's do it again just to make sure. No, it's happened thousands and thousands and thousands of times. We know. And if we're in a lot of it depends on whether or not you're willing to accept how America was founded and why they founded it the way they did, and how these biblical principles came to play, in that whole development process, and how our country was developed. I don't know where I was going exactly, but it's when you understand these things, you don't have to maybe consider a different perspective. I don't know. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the question was just, what do you think the other generation actually gets right?
Right. And so we still have to stay open, even though we know these things.
Yeah.
What is okay?
In your case, the younger generation. In my case, the older generation.
Right. So in my case, your generation, what do we think that you got right?
You actually, yeah, we actually, you could justify saying get right, yeah.
Your get right. I don't know that there is anything.
Ooh. Well.
Yeah. Now don't get me wrong, there are some people in your generation that are absolutely getting it right and have so much to offer there. A good example was Charlie Kirk. He was getting it right.
Yep.
He was nailing it. He was spot stinking on. And there are people that are just like him, just like he was. And praise God for them. And those people, they were getting it right. And they make you feel as though there's hope yet for your generation.
Well, I'd probably, from my aspect on it, I would probably take it a step further and say, just in general, your guys' work ethic. Like, whenever it comes to the older generation, the work ethic that's being shown, there's a pretty good sum of a younger generation that their work ethic is pretty aggressive, but not like the older generation was. They put the sweat equity into things like nobody's business.
Wow.
And that didn't hasn't carried on to the degree that your generation has in comparison.
Absolutely. Just like I saw my dad's generation do it even better.
Really? So it's almost like stepping stones.
Yep, and my grandfather's generation did it a bit better than my dad's generation. They knew what it was like to sacrifice their entire life for their career, to support their family, right? And their work ethic was second to none. And you can see how that has carried down from those generations that did it that way, right? I mean, my grandpa, he knew what it was. I mean, there was nothing that could get in the way of supporting his family, and that's what he did.
That's what it is.
And he shared that with my dad. My dad did it as well.
Man of the
And
house.
exactly, absolutely. And then, as a result of those generations sharing it the way they did, I picked up what I picked up from that, and then you picked up from me. So that's kind of a crazy question, quite frankly. And in some regards, your generation has done very, very well with that.
Oh,
There are people.
okay. Well, that actually goes into my next question. I
Okay.
guess wrapping it up here. What do you respect about the other generation? Is that something that you would kind of sit on?
Well, so respecting the other generation. Well, okay. So there's so much disrespect coming out of the generation below you.
No,
There's
I
a
don't know if it's below me. I think it's at my generation. The Gen
really,
Z, yeah, the Gen Z millennial generations, I think, are really the ones that are with what your mindset is on with the political aspects. It's going to be my generation because the younger generation below me, what is that, Generation Alpha or something like that? I don't think that they care a blip of what politics is,
yep,
which mean like, and then you have the generation at me and the generation above, which is millennial and Gen Z. Those generations are passionate in the wrong way when it comes to their political beliefs.
yes,
But that's how they feel about us, which is kind of funny.
especially if they went to college or university.
Mhm.
It's so distorted. There was so much entitlement.
So, the question that I have, and I'm curious to see if it stands, what do you respect about the other generation? And this also pertains to me, I should say, My what do I respect about the older generation?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That's pretty hard, right? Because there's a every generation that goes by, there's the segment of those generations that will honor God, right? God first, family second, country third. The number of people that will do that and are doing that and or practicing, it's getting smaller and smaller and
Oh, yeah,
smaller,
and it's not gonna
right?
get any better.
As a result, it becomes harder and harder and harder to find things about that generation, generationally speaking, that you can respect, that you can appreciate. You want to, and I can't base your generation on the kind of people that your mom and I raised,
Mm.
right? We intended and we're very intentional in raising you guys to understand, okay, there's a right way and a wrong way. And if you're going to do it the right way, God's got to be involved. God's got to be at the center of it. God's got to be at the leader of it, really, when it comes down to it. Just like the biblical premise, God, the husband and wife, that's very hard to see in your generation. But it exists in your families, some of your friends' families, some other people in your generation. But how many in your generation? To where can we can we respect your generation for these things or appreciate these things in your generation, or is there much that we can appreciate in your generation?
Hopefully, our generation starts working on itself because to think that, having a hard time with just answering that question doesn't look very good. Because when I think of your generation, I think about, just trying to think of something more on the lines of, like more of a generic basis, but I guess staying in the realm of what you were saying with like the political aspects of it. The sympathy with how sympathetic your generation is, putting up with a generation like mine to where we, to a degree, are a group of us can be a little too much, and you guys are willing to put up with that. Yeah, that I respect that.
Well, I mean, can we look at your generation and see any really major accomplishments, medically
Not
speaking,
yet,
discoveries, scientific discoveries?
but that's unfair because you're talking about the younger generation being the older generation. that's an advantage that you have being the older generation in comparison to my
Exactly.
younger generation, because sometimes those things take time. I don't know. I
Absolutely.
feel like it's the younger generation. I don't know what age the founders were to these major AI uh, corporations coming out, but they may be in that
In your
weird.
generation.
Yeah, they might be closer to my generation, which
Absolutely.
is
And
kind
there
of
are
the
some
next forefront.
and there are some respectable discoveries, right?
Mm,
That have been made. May not be having the best effect on us, but they were pretty powerful
mhm,
discoveries nonetheless. And you got to respect those things
mhm.
about those individuals in your generation. I wonder if we're ever going to see and how much of a difference there may or may not be in your generation, the number of things that were discovered and developments and things, the powerful moves as for society as a whole. Will we see as many of those things as were in my generation and the generation before me? Right?
Good question.
Those are questions that are interesting to observe. And just because somebody figured out how to bring AI into focus or how to develop AI and make it the bigger thing that it has become, is that a good thing?
Is it? Dude, that's the question to leave with.
Right? Because there are things that your generation may have discovered that could actually be bringing more harm to mankind, bringing more harm to mankind.
That's why we're in a very fragile era, because we could, depending on how we handle it
Yes.
in our relationship, in our as a society, helping the growth of AI and letting it understand who we are as humans and having
Yes.
compassion and all of this stuff,
Yep.
that can make or break our society.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
seeing where that leads is going
Absolutely.
to definitely be interesting.
And it's so hard to answer these questions because every generation is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The number of people that are willing to make sure that the basis, the founding blocks of life are at play in what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Mm.
Most importantly being, and this is again just me, I get it, some people may not agree and they could even become angry by this, but it's got to, I still absolutely believe, because society has proven itself, history has proven itself over and over and over, when you remove God, that creates a vacuum that is filled with so much grotesque everything, so
If there's one thing that our generation could take away is, from your generation, don't remove God. Hang on to your relationship with God
absolutely
as much as possible throughout your life.
absolutely
Keep a strong foundation, just like you're saying. And the question that I leave with you guys is, which generational perspective do you agree with the most? Is it your own? Is it the opposite? Are you more young mindset, even though you're an older person, or are you a younger person that has an older mindset? What misunderstandings between generations have you noticed, if any? But with that, I think that's where I've got to unfortunately wrap it up pretty quick here this evening.
Yeah, we're out of time.
I got some things that I go to. Yeah, we're out of time.
We've
got to
been
go work out.
Yep. Good. Well, it's been interesting. It's to me, it has been very interesting, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it as well.
I mean, we're coming around at an hour, so I mean, it hasn't. I don't want to say it's been quick, because that's usually how long our previous episodes are. So we're right on the dot.
Good.
But yeah, we're just gonna have to maybe come back or circle back around to more questions on this topic, but we'll leave that with you guys with those questions and wrap it up here.
Good. It's good talking to you.
All right, likewise. The hot take that I leave you guys with this week is, every generation thinks the next one is ruining the world, but the truth is, we're all just figuring it out in different decades. Live life to the fullest.
Amen.